Jake here for Extreme Terrain, and today I'm taking a look at the PowerStop Z36 Extreme Truck and Tow front and rear brake rotor and pad kit fitting 2010 and newer 4Runners. If you are looking for the ultimate upgrade to your 4Runners brakes, then you can stop right here because this Z36 kit from PowerStop is going to tick all of the boxes for you. This is perfect for the owner who's going to be using their 4Runner to its fullest extent. Whether that be hauling, towing, or hitting the trails, this kit is going to give you everything you need to stop on a dime. Yes, going fast is fun, but stopping is even more crucial and important. And PowerStop is a company that is founded exactly on what their name implies, and that is brakes and braking components. And it shows in the quality of their products. And the Z36 Extreme kit that I have here today is absolutely no exception. This is a high quality, heavy duty kit that gives you everything you need to upgrade your 4Runners brakes. Now there's quite a bit to talk about here, but we're gonna start with these rotors. Now these are obviously of the drilled and slotted variety, both front and rear. Now these trucks come from the factory with solid discs, and while those work fine in most applications, if you're doing a lot of heavy duty stuff like off-roading, towing, or hauling a bunch of stuff for overlanding, that extra heat dissipation that these are gonna provide will not go unnoticed. Heat is the enemy of braking performance, and having the slots and the drilled holes here are going to give plenty of spaces for that heat to escape, whether that be coming off the faces of the rotors here or escaping through the holes and coming out the central veins in the rotors here. All of that means it's going to channel it away from the faces of the rotors and the pads. And if you've ever had brakes get hot on you, you know that's not a fun experience, so doing what you can to avoid that is super important. However, rotors can only do so much on their own, and they need good pads to back them up. And the pads in this kit are absolutely the heroes of it. Now the Z36 pads are made using PowerStop's own proprietary carbon fiber ceramic compound. Now these in particular are designed for severe duty, such as hauling, towing, etc. And they're going to be really good at dissipating that heat while maintaining everyday drivability. Now lots of upgraded brake pads lead to a compromise when it comes to regular use, such as when you're driving around town with family in tow. However, that is not the case here. There's basically no compromise in performance or feel, and in fact, PowerStop claims that these pads are nearly dust-free. Now, no brake pad is entirely dust-free just due to the nature of how they work. That material is gonna have to go somewhere, but these are a super low dust formula. It's gonna keep your wheels a lot cleaner, and that's especially nice if you've got some cool aftermarket wheels on your truck. Now, these pads are also chamfered and they're thermal scorched, and that's gonna make for faster break-in as well. PowerStop thoughtfully also includes all new stainless steel hardware in the kit to give you extra peace of mind. So you're gonna have all new braking hardware, rotors, pads, and even slide pins in this case. So you're gonna be able to stop quickly and safely. The rotors themselves are made using G3000 metallurgy, so that means it's gonna have a higher percentage of carbon in the metal itself. And like the veins and the holes in the faces of the rotor that we were talking about earlier, that composition is gonna be extremely helpful in dissipating heat. And as you can see, the rotors also have a really nice silver zinc plating over them. That's gonna help prevent against rust and corrosion, so they're gonna look good and they're gonna perform well for a long time. They're not gonna get all rusty and corroded looking the first time they have moisture on them. And of course, you also have that brand new stainless steel hardware that we were talking about earlier. Again, gonna make everything nice and fresh, and they even include high temp brake lubricant in the kit. Coming in at about $550, this is not a cheap setup. However, good brakes rarely come cheap, and this is not a place you want to skimp if your truck is going to see a lot of usage. It's worth reiterating here that there's a lot of good science and technology baked into the rotors and the pads. Plus again, it comes with everything you need to do a full brake job basically, aside from a new set of calipers, and it's gonna vastly improve the braking performance of your 4Runner. Now, I definitely think that this is a worthwhile upgrade if you find the money in the budget. There are a few places on my own vehicles in which I believe it's worth spending the big bucks, and I will attest that I am running a Z36 Extreme Truck and Tow kit on my own truck, and I can tell you from firsthand experience that this is definitely worth it if you've got the room in your budget. This kit is everything PowerStop says it is and more, and I can attest to that firsthand. It's super low dust. I don't have to clean my wheels every 3 days like you do with some upgraded pads. The pedal feel is excellent. The moment you touch the pedal, you can feel that you're starting to slow down. And it's consistent braking performance all across that pedal range. it stops on a dime, and I haven't had any issues with heat dissipation, even towing a huge car and trailer behind my own truck. Now, you're not necessarily gonna be doing that with a 4Runner, but if you're going out there hitting a lot of jumps, hitting a lot of trails, or doing overlanding where you're taking a lot of gear and people with you, these are gonna be excellent. It's gonna be way overbraked for whatever you can throw at it, so don't worry, these are gonna be able to handle whatever you can throw at them. Installation comes in at a pretty soft 2 out of 3 on our difficulty meter, and installing this kit is definitely something you can do at home. Even if you've never done brakes before, it's not really a hard job. It's probably gonna take you about 3 hours to complete, so make sure you've got enough time set aside for it. And again, even if you haven't done brakes before, it's very straightforward, definitely something you can do with just some common hand tools at home. Not much more we can say about it here at the table, so with that, why don't we head out to the shop and we'll show you the process.
Tools required for this install include an impact gun, a ratchet, diagonal cutters, a screwdriver, 12, 13, and 17 millimeter sockets, a 17 and 19 millimeter swivel socket, microfiber towel, brake cleaner, and an optional M8 by 1.25 bolt to remove your rotors. What's up, guys? Today we're installing a set of brakes on our 4Runner, so let's get started. So our first step is to remove our brake pads from our caliper. We have a couple clips that we'll have to remove. We can slide out our 2 pins and then remove our pads. So first we can pop out this clip that's connected to our 2 pins. So we'll just push down on that and pop that out of the hole. And then we can slide that out of place. And then we can push forward on our pins to slide those out. And then we'll remove our second clip. Next we can remove our 2 pads. Now these are a little stiff in there, so I'm just going to use a screwdriver in these 2 holes and just pry back and forth to slide our pad out. And then we'll do that same thing for our other pad. Next we can remove our 2 caliper bolts. So I'm going to grab a 19 millimeter swivel socket to take these out. Now I'm going to leave this one in until we get our caliper hanger so we can hang this up and not put any pressure on our brake line. Next we're going to remove this 12 millimeter bolt that holds our brake line bracket in. So we'll grab our 12 millimeter socket to take that out. And we can pop that out of place. Next we can fully remove that last bolt that's holding in our caliper and use a caliper hanger or bungee cords to hang our caliper up. Now I'm just going to hook this to the spring and then remove our bolt. And then with our bolt removed, we can remove our caliper. So next we can remove our rotor. Now you have a couple options here. If your rotor just pulls right off, then great, you're lucky. If not, you can tap around the rotor with a rubber mallet since we are going to be replacing our rotors. Or since we have a threaded hole here, I'm going to be using an M8 by 1.25 bolt that we can thread in. And then we'll just take a 13 millimeter socket on a ratchet to tighten that down, and that'll push the rotor away from the hub. And then once you get that to pop, you can pull your rotor the rest of the way off. So now before we install our new rotors and pads, we need to compress the pistons in our caliper. I've got our caliper spreader tool here. This one ratchets and forces the 2 pads out to compress our piston. Next we can install our rotor. Now I'm putting this on backwards first so that we can clean it. So we'll grab some brake cleaner and spray down the surface. And then grab a shop rag or a clean microfiber towel to wipe that down. And then we can flip that around. And now our rotors are also labeled front driver side and front passenger side. So then we can pop that the rest of the way on and throw a couple of lug nuts on just to hold it in place. And then we can install our caliper. Next we can pop our caliper off our hook. And reinstall it. Now we can take our 19mm socket to tighten down our 2 caliper bolts. Next we can install our pads. So we'll get some of the lube included in the kit. And then we can spread that out across our metal backing plate. And then we'll slide our pad into place. And do the same thing for the other one. Now the side with this wear indicator is going to go in the rear. Next we can install our new pins that are included in the kit. So we'll slide our first one through the top. The second one's going to be going through this bracket. So we'll hook these into our pads. And then we can slide our pin through. Next we can put in our clip that connects our 2 pins. So we'll slide it through the holes in the pins. And then this piece will go through the hole in the caliper. Now lastly, we can reinstall our brake line bracket. So we'll get that into place and thread our bolt in. And then we can tighten that down with our 12mm socket. Now once you're done with one side, you can go back into the cabin and pump up your brake pedal to get the fluid back towards the caliper, and then you can repeat the same process on the other side. So now moving on to the rear, we can remove our 2 slide bolts, remove our clamshell, and then use a caliper hanger to hang that up out of the way. So now I'm gonna grab our caliper hanger and just throw that on the spring for now. And then we'll take a 17mm socket to remove our 2 bolts. And then with our 2 bolts removed, we can wiggle our clamshell off and then hang that onto our caliper hook. Next, we can remove our caliper bracket with our brake pads all in one. So we'll take a 17mm swivel socket to remove our 2 bracket bolts. Next, we can remove our rotor. We're going to do this the same way we did the front. I've got our M8 by 1.25 bolt that we can thread into our rotor. And then we'll take a 13mm socket to tighten that down. And then once our rotor pops free, we can remove it. So now moving on to the rear, the first thing we're going to do is compress the piston in our caliper. Now this one has a single piston, so we're using a different tool here. This pad is going to hook into the 2 teeth in the caliper, and then this will compress it in. I'm going to be putting a microfiber towel down so we don't damage our piston. Now next we can throw our rotor on. Once again, we're going backwards first so that we can clean it. And then we can flip that around and clean the other side. Now once again, the rear rotors are also labeled with a driver side or passenger side. And then we'll just throw our 2 lug nuts on just to hold the rotor in place. So now we can remove our old brake pads from our caliper bracket and install our new ones. I've got all of our clips laid out. All you're gonna do is match these up to the old ones, pop out the old ones, put the new ones in, and then we can slide our pads in. So now we can pop our old brake pads out of our clips. And then we can start just pulling on our clips to pop those out. We'll match up our old clip with our new one and pop those in. And then we'll just do that same thing working around. And then we also have the clip that's going to be going onto our new brake pad. So we'll just match that up to how our old one was and pop that into place. And next we're going to lube up all of our new clips. So we'll get our included brake lube. And then we can start to slide in our brake pads. Now the one with the clip is going to go towards the rear. So we'll slide our fronts in first. And then we can pop in our rear. And then once we have that in place, we'll lube up the backing plate of our brake pads. Next, we can reinstall our caliper bracket and thread in our bolts. And then we can thread our lower bolt into place. And then we'll grab our 17mm socket to tighten these down. Next, we can lube up our slide bolts. And then we can grab our caliper off the hook and slide that on. And then get our slide bolt into place. And then we'll do that same thing for the other bolt. And now we can grab our 17mm socket to tighten up our bolts. Now once you're done with this side, we're going to do the same thing as the front. You're going to pump up the pedal to get that fluid out of the master cylinder and back to the caliper, and then you can repeat the same process on the other side. So that'll wrap up this review and install of the PowerStop Z36 Extreme Truck and Tow 6-lug brake rotor and pad kit for the front and rear of your 2010 and newer 4Runner. Thank you for watching, and for all things 4Runner, keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.